So I was thinking about it as I'm listening to the audio of the first Harry Potter, and how, first of all, like, listening through the audio, it's impossible not to picture the movie. Especially with the first one, because the first movie is so accurate to the first book. I mean, they barely changed anything. I was kind of trying to erase that and remember what was it like when I first read the Harry Potter books. Because that was back before there was a world with Harry Potter in it. And so, like, the first reading of the Harry Potter books was so incredibly magical. Like, every moment of the book was so magical because you're learning about this whole new world that you had never heard of before. And then I was thinking about how young people today are born into a world where Harry Potter is a thing.
Yeah.
And it's been a thing. So I wonder, is it, like, the same, or can it possibly be the same for kids who are however old when they first read Harry Potter? I mean, if they've seen the movies first, or even just like hearing. I mean, Harry Potter's everywhere. Every store practically that you go into is going to have a Harry Potter something.
Yeah.
They're born into a world where Harry Potter is such a huge thing.
Well, I was kind of like that because I was the youngest. I don't remember the first time I watched the movie, and I watched the first couple movies before I read the books.
Right.
So it was a little different because I do remember the books coming out and, like, going to the releases and, like, going to the movie releases, but I don't remember my first impression of, like, the Harry Potter world. Sure. I remember the first movies being especially magical.
Yeah.
Because it was, like, this new thing, and it's new for Harry in the first movie or the first book. It's new for him. And
yeah.
So I do remember experiencing it like that, but I don't remember, like, when you tell that story about Peyton and you, I don't remember, like, those kind of things. Like,
right.
Oh my gosh, Quirrell is evil. I knew Quirrell was evil.
Right.
I don't remember that shock. But, like, I was spoiled for a lot of the books.
Right.
The only thing I didn't know was the last book. But, like, I knew that Dumbledore dies, and I knew that Snape was not.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
Big time.
I knew that, like, Snape was not all that he appears to be.
Right.
I didn't know the extent of everything, but, like, I was spoiled for a lot of it.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't get those experiences like you guys did. But it was still, like, just as magical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank goodness that the movies
are good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Some are better than others.
Yeah. Well, actually, what made me read the books, like, what made me finally read the books, was that we all went to see the 6th movie, and you were all like, no! Like, everyone was so upset. Like, our whole family was so upset about that movie, and I was like, alright, I gotta read the books.
Yeah.
Or I think maybe I read the first couple, but I wanted to, like, read the rest.
Everybody here was someone else before, and you can want who you want. Boys and girls and girls, welcome to New York. It's been waiting for you. Welcome to New York. Welcome to New York. Welcome to New York. It's been waiting for you. Welcome to New York. Welcome to New York. It's a new soundtrack. I could dance to this beat. Forevermore. The lights are so bright, but they never blind me.
Peyton was 6 years old, and I was 24. We started reading the first Harry Potter book aloud together. We didn't read it through in one sitting, but we started, and he loved it. I mean, we were reading it every night. And then we were getting close to the end one night. It got to the point where they were, like, trying to go after Snape, who they thought was after the Sorcerer's Stone.
Like, going through the trials.
Going through the challenges and all of that. And so it was like you can't stop. You know, we couldn't stop at that point. So we just kept reading and reading and reading and reading. And then I just thought, like, we'll stop at some point and it'll be fine. But then we got to the point where Ron gets hurt, Hermione goes back, and I'm like, ooh, this is getting a little perilous here. And then you find out that it's Quirrell. And I was like, oh, okay, what's going to happen here? And everything got dark and creepy as soon as Voldemort started talking out of the back of Quirrell's head. And I'm reading this book out loud to a 6-year-old, and it's getting to be like 11 o'clock at night. And it was at that point where I was like, oh no. And I was like, we're in it, man. We're going. We got to keep reading until things get happy again, because there's no way I can put a 6-year-old to bed with the idea that with the thought in his mind
back of this guy's
that
head.
Voldemort's talking out of the back of this guy's head. Oh, yep. I don't know how late we read until, I can't remember if we definitely finished like to the very, very end, or if yeah, we did actually. We went to the very end.
Oh my goodness.
And I definitely slept with him that night as well. It was well past midnight. And then we started the second book, and I had baby Emma and baby Will at that point. I wasn't available nearly enough, you know, to read the book out loud.
To satisfy Peyton.
Yeah, to satisfy his curiosity. So he took off without me, picked up that book at 7 years old, and at that point just like he read all the Harry Potters, you know, on his own.
I don't know like what this memory is specifically, but I remember being like at school with Peyton, and he was like talking about books, Harry Potter books, and what he was reading. And it was like the 6th book, or one of the really, really long ones. And he was like, yeah, I like finished it. Like, he was reading them so fast. He was reading them in like days.
Yep.
And he was not even in middle school yet.
Yeah.
Low key, low pressure, just hang with me in my weather. Just let me cry a little bit longer. I ain't gonna smile if I don't want to. Hey man, we all can't be like you. I wish we were all rose colored too, my rose colored boy.
I was homeschooled when I finally read them for the first time. And I remember, like, you coming into my room and being like, Emma, where have you been? Like, I've been just reading Harry Potter for, like, days and days and days, and, like, no one had seen me.
We have a lot of great Harry Potter stories. Like,
Yeah.
like when the, which was the green book, the one that, the costume contest.
I think it was the
Triwizard Tournament.
Oh, the 4th one?
I think so. Isn't that the green one?
Isn't Order of Phoenix blue and Half-Blood Prince is green?
I don't know. Your bookstore that you work at now
Yeah.
had, you know, the release for the book, and
Was it a midnight release? Did we go?
it was a midnight release, but we went for the, like, costume party, and I guess, yeah, we stayed until they released the book, but I think they released it at like 10 o'clock at night, if I remember correctly.
I was going to say, apparently with our family when we were young, there was no bedtime when it came to Harry Potter.
That's right. So they had a costume contest, and Peyton was away, which is such a bummer because he's the perfect Harry Potter. So you and Will got dressed up as Hermione and Ron. And Will was a little blonde-haired, freckle-faced boy, so he dyed his hair red, and it worked perfectly because his hair was so blonde. So he had ginger hair and his freckles and the full costume, and we teased your hair out.
Everyone thought Will was a natural redhead.
Yep, all the people there were a lot of teenagers, and so anytime you and Will would walk by, they were like, oh my gosh! And like, you guys had a fan club by the time, and then like the whole voting process was just standing up in front and the crowd would cheer, and whoever got the loudest cheer won. And of course, you were too shy.
Yeah, I was too shy because you had to introduce yourself, so.
I know, so Emma didn't get up there, but they
I think Will introduced me, so
He did.
They let me, like,
they did, yeah.
tag onto him. Yeah.
Exactly. So Will got up there and the crowd went nuts. Like all the teenage girls were like, he has to win. And they screamed at the top of their lungs. So he won, and he won a signed copy of the book. The owner of the bookstore put him up there, and they took a picture, and he was in the newspaper.
Yeah. I've been curious to ask anyone who works there now, like the managers, if they like remember this, you know?
And then the other good memory is when the last book came out.
Oh my gosh. This is one of my favorite childhood memories. Our whole family, like my family, my grandmother, our cousins and aunt and uncle, we were all staying in a beach house. And the last book came out, and like everyone was reading it all at the same time, because like my whole extended family, Harry Potter was a thing for all of us. Our local extended family.
Yeah. We went to your bookstore at midnight. Like, none of us wanted to share, so we all bought like our own.
There were like 10 copies in the house.
And we were all like spread out throughout the house reading the book, but we're reading it at like different intervals, and so like nobody was allowed to talk like and say anything to anybody else, because like Uncle Chris had to work, so he didn't have as much time to like read, and so he was like,
no one wanted to spoil anyone, so you guys like didn't talk to each other for days.
We didn't talk to each other at all. We were like, don't look at me, don't look at me. And then Peyton was the same way, because he was away, but then he came back, so then we all were like, no, we can't talk about it until Peyton has read it. And so we're all, of course, hiding our tears as we're crying. And literally crying through the entire end of the book. I remember like the point at which I started crying, because Auntie Patty and Uncle Chris and we were all sitting out on the deck reading, and I started crying, and I had to like get up and leave. I was like, well, I can't read this in front of them, because I'm gonna give stuff away. And of course it was so great, because the last book was so good.
Yeah,
it was so satisfying.
Loading, there's a strange exhilaration in such total detestation. It's so pure.